Everybody here in person, thank you so much for being here in the room. And we're grateful that you are here. We're going to get started here just in a few minutes. But we want to welcome all of our extended family from around the world, from wherever you're watching. On behalf of Pastor Joel and Victoria, thank you for being a part of the Lakewood Leadership Program. We're glad that you have joined in with us. Tonight is week 4 of Leadership 301, which is emotional intelligence, leading from emotional intelligence, leading in a way that we understand ourselves and those around us. And so we're going to get right into week 4 tonight with our very own Dr. Destry Dokes is going to be helping us out and instructing us tonight, and we're going to engage in some really good conversation. I do want to let you know about what's coming up. Starting March 6th, Leadership 302, we're going to be talking about leadership from biblical characters. And I have a list of those biblical characters that we actually have. Man, if you could put them up for me. Leadership 302, bold leadership from the Bible. If you want to go to the next one. We actually have a list of the passages that we're going to be reading from. So I want to give you sort of a long runway, a long head start in some of the passages that we're going to be reading. If you want to take a screenshot of this, you're welcome to. We'll also put it in our planning center or our church center notes. By the way, if you want to follow along with all of our slide deck for tonight, you will be able to do that. Manny, if you'll go back real quick. This will be part of the slide deck that we put into our church center slide notes this week. All right, so Dr. Dokes' slides will be in there, and also our slides for the next Leadership 302 course. It will be 6 weeks. We're going to have some of our staff here that will be joining us in conversation. We're going to be having, Pastor Caleb and Gabby Aldridge are going to be here, and they're part of the youth and young adult ministry. We're going to have Pastor Devontae and Stephanie Tidwell, our youth directors. We're going to have Pastor Serena, our young adults director, will be here. We're going to have Brother Johnny McGowan, Pastor Joel's right-hand guy, is going to be here with us as well. So we're going to have some really good conversation on these different passages. So I wanted to give you a head start and let you know, if you wanted to start reading some of these, here's how it's going to work. Our curriculum for the next course is going to be the Bible. We're going to read these passages. We're going to come together, and I'm going to have a series of questions. And we're going to have discussion around what leadership principles do we see in the lives of these people. And we're going to make a list ourselves over that 6 weeks. What do we see in their lives? And it's going to be 2 categories. What to do and what not to do in leadership. I think it's going to be a really, really good discussion. We're going to have a few people up here each week, and we're going to make this a group project, right? A group project. All right, and for tonight, the slide deck for tonight, man, if you want to go to that, you're welcome to get this QR code. This is our slide deck for week 4. Social skills, I messed up. Instead of putting week 3, it should be week 4. But it is on social skills, and if you want the slide deck, you're welcome to follow along. The link will take you directly to all of our notes for this evening. After tonight, our wonderful admin team will be putting follow-up content, by the way. If you have a Church Center app, if you want to go to the resources on our Church Center app, you can follow up this next week. We will have a worksheet, we will have conversation questions, and we will have a digital quiz that you can take if you want to take that. So if you want to go on Church Center on the app, go to the resource section of Leadership 301, you will see week 4, those different elements. And the reason we do that is this. The reason we do that is not just so that we can continue to grow, but let's say you have a group of people that want to grow along with you. We want to provide follow-up content so you can distribute to your friends, maybe colleagues at the office. If you want to have a huddle discussion, you want to talk about leadership, you want to talk about emotional intelligence and growth. By the way, Dr. Dokes is always available. Dr. Dokes has his own firm, Dokes Partners. And he's available to come to any organization and do leadership development and training. It's what he does professionally. And he has his PhD in educational leadership and training and emotional intelligence and everything else. So, but I just want to encourage you, take advantage of the notes, take advantage of the follow-up content that we have. It's completely free. You can have it and use it to your advantage to grow personally or to help other people if they want to grow. We have the videos, by the way. We always live stream to YouTube on Thursday nights, and that live will always be ready on YouTube. If you want to go to our YouTube channel, Lakewood Leadership Program, and then we will put the link on Church Center resource section as well. So in Church Center, along with our follow-up content, you will have a link to our YouTube so you can watch the video and you can go back and do the notes as well. And we'll start doing that for every single course we have. We will upload the notes and, of course, have the videos for you as well. So what I want to do tonight is we're going to kick off with just a few minutes of connection. Can we do that? All right. We're going to connect tonight for everybody that's online. I know you're online with Tara and Vanessa and Ruby and the whole team, and we love them, and they do a magnificent job. What we want to do is connect for just a few minutes. Let's take 5 minutes, and I'm going to ask everybody in the room, if you'll walk around in just a moment. We'll start a little bit of music, and then we're going to put 2 questions up. And I'm going to ask you to choose one of these 2 questions and meet, say, 2 people in the room. Meet 2 people in the room. Question number 1, if you were selected for a reality show, which one would you choose to be on? Or number 2, what is your go-to midnight snack? What is your go-to midnight snack? I want the nastiest sugar cereal I can find. Do what? That's right. What is your go-to before midnight snack? Thank you, Terry. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Everybody, if you want to mingle, meet somebody in the room, introduce yourself if you don't know them, and ask one of these 2 questions. Those of you online, engage with Vanessa and Ruby and Tara and all of our team and answer one of these 2 questions in the chat. Let's take 5 minutes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got about 30 seconds left, and we're going to make our way to our seat. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm going to break it up. All right. Now, I saw a couple of people online that said frozen grapes. Anybody freeze their grapes? They're pretty good. They're pretty good. All right, here we go. If you were going to be on, I'm going to have Dr. Dokes come up here in just 1 minute, but we're going to report back, and I want to hear from some people on Zoom. Miss Bria, if you don't mind grabbing the mic in just a moment. It's right there in the seat right behind Mr. Robert. And I want to ask you, what is your reality show that you would go on, or your go-to flirting with midnight snack? Somebody raise your hand real quick. Shout it out. Go for it. Yell it out. Ice cream sandwich. I like it. Who else? Chocolate. I like it. Tin roof ice cream. Okay, I got you. Yell it out. Special K cereal with almond milk. Special K cereal with almond milk. I didn't know almonds had milk in them. That's a new one. How hard are we squeezing these almonds? What else we got? Midnight snack. Anybody? Bluebell. I like it. Bluebell ice cream. Coffee with milk. Okay. M&M's. Hey, let's go. Anybody like Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Ooh, Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal. Yeah. Okay, I can tell you real quick. When we were first married, Tara and I would watch Cake Boss on TV. There were a number of times the first year I went to Walmart at 2 a.m. to get a cake to make. That's a true story. I was like, this cake is killing me. It's killing me. It was so good, though. But I ate cake at like 4 in the morning. That's a true story. True story. Hey, if you got a goal, go for it. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what time of day it is. Go for the goal. If you got something in mind, go for it. Nothing would stop me. She's like, it's 1 a.m. and you're at Walmart. I'm like, what other time do you go to Walmart than 1 a.m.? You know what I'm saying? All right, Joey, go ahead. Same thing, cake. I like it. Joey said he'd be laying in bed and they'd get up early in the morning and go to Whataburger, like midnight, 1 o'clock. I like it. All right. Any report back? I think I'm getting reports back right now. Barbecue. Ooh. Who said barbecue? Barbecue. Okay. Smoked oyster. Hey, anybody like oysters in here? Oyster fans? Yeah, I like them. Deep water. I like deep water oysters. Chips, popcorn, peach cobbler. Hey, we live in the South down here in America. I'll tell you what. Online doesn't do snacks, they do meals. I like it. Tootsie Rolls. Hey, a full meal never hurt anybody. Never hurt anybody. In-N-Out Burger, animal style. You know what I'm saying? Anybody In-N-Out Burger? In-N-Out Burger? West Coasters? Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to give as much time as we can to Dr. Dokes. Would y'all please welcome Dr. Destry Dokes to come up here and do week number 4 in emotional intelligence on social skills.
All right. Man, y'all having fun up here with PJ. It's all over the place. Got some stuff going on at midnight, right? You know, and I'm listening to that and I'm saying, you guys need some emotional intelligence real bad, right? So let's just dig in right quick. Emotional intelligence, key to meaningful engagement. We talked about meaningful engagement being those conversations that we can have with one another that causes us to go to a higher level together, right? Remember that? The whole meaningful engagement thing. It can't just be about you. You are wonderful, but it can't just be about you. It has to be about all of us. So that's our meaningful engagement. As we go to the next one, we asked a question last time. What comes to mind when you hear me say greater shared outcomes? And we gave all sorts of answers, right? So just remember these. We're going to go through these really quick. And let's bring us up to speed. And we said, when you engage with us, don't just do it with your heart, but also do it with your intellect. So we need both of them. The one on the right side, talking about emotional intelligence, is around 80%. So you know you're going to pass the exam if you start there, but you got to go a step further. You got to really dig in. So you need really both of those when you're dealing with me. All right, what we got next? And so here we go. EQ, the ability, we always remind you this every week, the ability to motivate oneself and persist in the face of frustration, to control impulse and delay gratification. You got to really get it under control. Next. We said, why do we do this? According to all of the research, there is a link between emotional intelligence and how people show up in the workplace. If you want a good boss, right, or if you want to be that good boss, hopefully you want to invest in your emotional intelligence so you understand how people function, but not just how they function, but what about how you function? If you're going to help somebody else, you need to be helped yourself. And so we got to make sure that happens. All right, next, what we got? So contributes to personal relationship, that might be a good thing. I'm just saying. If you work on your emotional intelligence, you might have some really good personal relationships. It might be better than what it is tonight. You can pay me later. But just work on your emotional intelligence, you'll have better relationships. Okay, let's go a step further. So what we did was we talked about self-awareness, understanding me and how I show up for others. Then we went to self-regulation, managing the controlling our own thoughts, how we're showing up, those impulses that we have. We got to manage those and get those under control, right? And then we went last week, we talked about empathy, understand and share the feelings of one another. And we talked about empathy and sympathy, that they're very different. One sometimes can appear respectively passive. That's the sympathy part when you say, okay, yeah, I'm so sorry. Understand, I'm really sorry about that. Empathy is a lot deeper where we begin to take on the emotions and the feelings of others. But we said last week we need to be very careful because if you have too much empathy, you can run into what? Burnout. We got to be careful. Yeah, I care about you, right? But at some point when you texting me or calling me every other week talking about woe is me, I got to be careful of that because if I begin to take on that energy, I'll begin to demonstrate that energy. So I have to be very careful about that. So we talked about burnout. Burnout is a real thing, by the way. We also talked about in the burnout space, if you're not careful, you'll walk around and be functional, but you might be depressed. You might be functionally depressed, but you can't really put your hand on it. You just know that something is off. Something is off. But you're giving of yourself. Lord, I'm every time somebody reaches out to me, I try to help. I try to help my fellow man. Yes, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, and I'm running here, and I'm running there. But if you're not taking care of self, you're going to run into some issues. Remember, you can only bring to the table that which you have. So if you don't have it, you can't give it. If all you have is $20, you can't give $21. Even if your heart wants to, you can't give it because all you have is $20. So what we are saying here is in emotional intelligence that you must first take care of yourself if you're going to help someone else. In the airline world, if you've ever taken a flight before, they're going to tell you something very special. There is going to be a mask that drops from the cabin. When it comes down, put your mask on first before you help anyone else. You say, but I got my baby. Put your mask on first before you help anyone else. Well, I have grandma here. She's special. Put your mask on first before you can help anyone else. Right? Because if anything happened on a plane and you are not together, you can't really help baby or grandmother like you really want to. So you got to make sure you put your mask on first before you help anyone else. Again, you can only bring to the table that which you have. If you don't have it, you cannot bring it. Even if you want to. You can only give so much. And you should be careful on how much you're giving because we don't want to burn ourselves out. Right? You don't want to do that. All right, let's go. Social skills, ability to engage in meaningful engagement. So here's what the question in my first question. How do you define social skills? Online as well. How do you define social skills? How do we define social skills? Yes, sir. Do we have a mic? Here we go. Yes, sir. Right here, my friend. How do you define social skills?
The ability to interact with others on any level pertaining to their struggles, their positivities, whatever it is, Your ability to interact with others in every single way.
Your ability to interact with others on every level in every single way, regardless of the situation. All right, any other thoughts? Social skills. What's out there? Come on, let us have it. I see the faces like, I've been wanting to say this all day. But nobody will let me. Go for it.
You go, Joey.
Well, just to add to what he said, for me, I had to learn how to do it genuinely.
Oh, genuinely.
I mean, I had a list of what I needed to say and do and whatever, but till I got where I meant it, it took me a while to get there.
So you were doing things, but you don't know if it was coming from the right place?
Yeah, I wasn't genuine. I was like, okay, question 2. You know what I'm saying? It was I was following a list, but as you got closer and started working with people and you felt it, it became real. You know, you had to just jump in. You couldn't wait till you got genuine. I had to just jump in and do it.
And be genuine. So all of you said, but also be genuine with it. You know, there's something funny about human beings. It's funny, follow me. They feel when you're not real. It's a funny thing, rascals. Right? They feel when you're not real. And before you push it out, you even feel when you're not real. Yes, sir, Terry.
You have to do it appropriately.
Help us out.
Appropriately. In other words, you have to talk to them in the right manner, in the right way. Sometimes you can't always tell somebody exactly what you think. Maybe I need to think before I speak.
So are you talking about that self-control, self-regulation? You have to control your impulses?
You know, it's self-discipline.
Yep, love it.
Okay, is it love or self-discipline? And, you know, you're on both sides of the fruit.
Absolutely,
which way
love
is
it.
Okay.
Love it. Absolutely. PJ, what are we hearing online?
Yeah, we've had a couple of different people mention a few things. Skills of communication and listening. The capacity to understand socially and someone socially and to communicate. To be a listener. The ability to read the room.
Love it. Love it.
Being able to, many people said read the room. Being able to understand others. Respect other people's personal space. It's a good social skill. And then having self-awareness. And yeah, I think mostly the answers that we've got. Somebody said the best way to connect in a room is to stand on your own for a while and soon start coming over, you know, and starting to meet people. So
Kind of good connection. So being able to read the room. Do you do that when you go into a space? When you go over to so-and-so's house for dinner and there's going to be a big function or you go to this conference, yes. You like to, do you read the room? Is that the first thing you do? Or do you just walk in there and just let them have it?
I read the people where I talk before because I need to see his body language tell me the truth. I can hear whatever them say, but his body language talk to me something else.
So the body language is speaking louder than the voice.
Yes.
Have you ever heard someone or saw someone say, you know I love you?
Yes.
You need to redo that, my friend. Or we're going to be calling some folks and it won't be the pastor. Right? But so the body language has the ability to say things that you may not mean or that you really mean. The body can do that. So we need to be careful of what we are saying to make sure that there's complete alignment in our communication when it comes to social skills. Now remember, folks come into our spaces, you don't know from whence they come and where they're going back to. So in other words, you don't know their experiences. So you need to be able to read the room, so to speak, to understand what are the requirements, what's in the space. Because you can be talking to half of the room even though you were speaking to all of the room. Does that make sense? Do it again, right? You can be talking to the whole room, but only speaking to half of it. Because of where they come from, mental, heart, spaces, wherever they come from, they may not understand exactly what it is that you're talking about. So learning to read the room from a social perspective. If you can learn to read the room, I guarantee you're probably going to be 75 or 80% successful before you ever really get into it. But you got to know what's in the room. If you don't know what's in the room, you may run into some issues that you're not aware of. All right, let's go to the next one real quick. Social skills, essentially enhancing your ability to connect with others and achieve goals through collaboration, both personally and professionally. Collaboration. Intentional interactions with one another in the goal of having greater shared outcomes. Collaboration. Not because your boss told you to do it, right? Not because I don't have a choice at home now because my back is against the wall, and if I don't tell her a certain thing, then she's going to go spend more money than I want her to spend, so I'm going to go ahead and play like I'm collaborating. But no, intentionally looking at reading the room, trying to understand what's actually happening from an emotional perspective, because that's where people are coming from. They're coming from an emotional place. So depending on the traffic, depending on the new salary that they was expecting but didn't get, depending on how you act this morning before they left the house, and if you do the honeydew, all of that is going to determine the emotion, and that's going to determine what really comes out of me. And if you're not aware of that from a social skill or social awareness perspective, you will be responding to things that may or may not matter. Yes? I think so, right? All right, let's go a step further. Let's see what else we got. The ability to be aware of and manage your emotions and the emotions of who? Others. Ooh, you guys are going to be amazing. You're going to walk in there and look at them and go, I got you, right? But seriously, if you're in a space and you learn to read the room, then you can manage, if you know who you are and you've learned emotional intelligence, you should be able to pick up on other emotions just like that. And if you can control your emotions because you have feelings about things, you have to learn to regulate that and not be impulsive. Remember we talked about that. How do you regulate your impulses, right? Somebody else tell you something, I would have never let them do that to me. I know. That's why I didn't tell you, right? Because you never let them do that. So sometimes you have to learn to regulate. I remember my grandfather telling me that if someone tells you something that you already know, you should tell them thank you, not that they already know it. Because if you're open enough, you can learn something different about that same subject. If you're open enough. If you're not closed, your emotions are not closed. And when you're in social spaces, is it okay to say, if somebody tell you you look nice, you should probably tell them what? Thank you. Right?
You need to restore that.
Say it again.
You need to not only say thank you, you need to tell the person you look very nice today.
Thank you.
Too.
Thank you. I appreciate
Because
you
if
telling
you
me
tell
that.
me, I feel the shame, they not return it to
Absolutely.
you, and the person,
Absolutely.
oh, come on.
Absolutely. So there's emotion sitting with that as well.
Yes.
Right? Because people have taken a lot of time to put themselves together to be in your presence and to be present, except you don't recognize it. Could be a problem. Learn to read the room. PJ, what you got?
I think Marie said, know your audience a little bit. Know your people a little bit. Social skills, volunteering in a way, assisting the public willingly in a good manner. And Sonia said, sometimes your emotions can cloud your mind and judgment of what others say.
Oh,
or
yes.
have a perception.
Yes.
Then we talked, a few people are commenting about emotions, not being too emotionally high or letting things get to you too much. The power of being able to control your emotions, kind words, things like that.
Love it. And remember last week or the week before, we talked about blind spots. We talked about having blind spots. So depending on how you're managing your emotions, you can walk around with a blind spot and you won't even recognize it. Have you ever gone to the home from work and passed by a grocery store or passed by wherever and don't recognize that you passed by it? I don't want to drive on the street you drive on. Right? But it happens. And what that simply means is you were not fully present. How often are we doing that in our relationships? How often are we passing by situations in our relationship and never pay attention to it because we have a blind spot? We were not present. We say we were, but we really wasn't present. That's what happens to us when we begin to drive home and you pass by somewhere and don't recognize and you make it home and go, whoa, whoa, what was that all about? Well, think about your relationships. How often do we do that in our relationships? That we are not fully aware. We're not fully aware. All right, let's go a step further. Let's do some more. All right, communication, the big C word, the ability to communicate effectively and assertively. Sometimes when you communicate from an assertive perspective, people think you're too aggressive. And sometimes you are. Right? But we can come across aggressive, right? But if we know the room, we may want to tone it based on the room. Tone it based on the room. Be very careful. You need to know that from a social perspective, tone it based on the room. If the room like it this way, then pop it up a little bit. Let's get it started. But if the room like it the other way, let's turn it down some. Right? Let's turn it down. Because sometimes we come in loud. And loud doesn't mean always the tone. It could be the word choices that we use. We're too loud. We're too assertive. We're too aggressive. On our jobs, we sometimes say, I don't understand why they don't understand. Well, how are you coming at them? What's going on with you? Right, PJ, what we saying online?
Yeah, Shannon said this, we may need to be careful with judgment, especially with those who seem to have limited or no social skills.
Ooh.
So the person who is highly emotionally intelligent recognizes somebody who may not have as high social skills or as highly intelligent.
And if you have
emotionally intelligent.
Yes. No, if you have high emotional intelligence, you should be really helping everybody else. Remember, put on your what first? Put on your mask first. Put on yours first, and then help everybody else put theirs on. So if you have high emotional intelligence, you should be really a driver of the relationship and kind of what happens in that relationship because you have a high level of emotional intelligence. And you should be able to point out people when they don't have high levels of emotional intelligence. You should be able to see it. Trust me, when you really focus in on this work, remember we said at the very beginning, there is a link between people with high emotional intelligence and success. There is a link. There is a link. You don't go off on everything everybody says. But if you don't have high emotional intelligence, you might. And it may affect your job. Right? It may affect your job. So I learned today, we was in a conversation today, and the gentleman said he's an organizational talent and development individual, so HR, and he was saying that a friend of his, they were working for this company, and his friend said, I'm just tired, I'm gonna tell him what's on my mind. But they was working for a smaller company, so the person that he was speaking of was the guy who owned the company. But he said, I'm gonna tell him what I think. So he let him, he did his thing. He was just doing his thing. And an hour later, he was looking for a job. That wasn't very emotionally intelligent. You have to learn to control your impulses. Terry, let's get a mic to Terry if you don't mind. Priya.
So I'm a people person, and I walk into rooms and I watch people. That's the first thing I do. But as I notice when we talk about social skills, there's a lot of people out there that are introverted and extroverted.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
So I need to find out really who they are, and you can sit back and watch people. Then you know how to learn how to interact with them as well. But if I don't do that, if I don't make, and that's making a judgment call. But if I go in soft on somebody that's introverted, then I can see if they really are, they're maybe a little bit closer to extroverted. But maybe they really are truly introverted. Because like my wife, she's truly an introvert. Okay, so I can't come on strong with my wife.
And you're what? She's introvert.
What do you think I am? But one of the things is, but this is the cool thing. That's what God does. He puts two opposites together. Okay, so she has strengthened me in other ways to where I calm down in certain arenas. Okay, but yet I've given her some abilities and shown her some ways that she can really stand up for herself and be really who she wants to be and who she needs to be.
Love it, love it.
Okay?
Terry, you're absolutely correct. When it comes to introversion and extroversion, also there is ambivert and omnivert. So introversion is this side of it. They're really reserved, just, leave me alone sort of thing. The extroverted person just got to go get it. They'll turn it up all the time, right? And then you have people who are ambivert. They really sit in the middle of introversion and extroversion. It's hard to tell what they really are. And then there's the omnivert. They have learned to pull from either one of them intentionally. What do you think I am? Introvert, extrovert, omnivert, or some other type of vert? Somebody said omnivert? With us, omnivert, introvert? I lean towards introversion. Yes, that's correct. Most entertainers are introverted. Do you know why? What do they do most? Yes.
So their performance in their art is often a display of themselves. And so they're putting a piece of themselves out there for people to view. And typically that doesn't leave a lot in the tank after that.
Beautiful. We're going on the road together, right? Do the show. So what happens is people are putting themselves out there extroverted. They're just doing their thing. But if you could continue to do that, you're going to run out of gas. So they have to go refill. So they like to go back to a place to where they just woosah. Right? I want to talk. Well, no, darling, not right now. Right? I just want to get, so it happens. But if you don't know if a person is introverted or extroverted, you could be really talking the wrong language. That would be a blind spot. PJ, anything online?
Yeah, we've had a couple of comments. I think one of the good comments that I agree with was be careful not to overshare. I think one of the things, and I think Terry said it earlier, one of the things that we can be aware of is appropriate vulnerability in our social settings.
I like
some
that.
People undershare.
Appropriate.
Some people overshare.
Yes.
Depending on the setting.
Like too much information.
Right. And they may have great people skills, but it may lead them to the point that they feel too comfortable in oversharing.
So we need to manage that.
Right. It may make somebody uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I guess my question is this, Dr. Dokes, as
Yes.
you and I have had many conversations. I want to know if I can grow in emotional intelligence and I can understand not only my own emotions and the emotions of others. Let's say I grow and I'm relating to people in a room. How much is too much to where I start becoming exhausted or tired handling others' emotions as well as my own?
Very good question. Very good question. Who has an answer? Very good question. Yes, here we go. Man, we're going on the road together, man.
I would say, at what point does the difficulty of the social interaction get in the way with the execution and the result? I've found
deep.
that the more difficult the situation, the more ambitious thing you're trying to do, that takes a certain degree of excellence, and it's going to be a bottom line thing, right? There will come a point where you have to be intense, upfront, blunt about something, and you may not be able to soften the delivery of stuff because this is, win or go home.
No, I love it. I love it. So here's something that I would add, that you should have personal boundaries for yourself first, and then the other parts of your relationships will also be filled with boundaries. Yep. You should have boundaries. If you don't have boundaries, you would just let them have it. And you would do TMI. And then your people don't want to really talk, I'm sort of busy, right? So to answer the question is that you should naturally develop boundaries for yourself. You should do that. You know who you are. Remember self-awareness? You know who you are. You know who you are. Don't play. You know you. So now that you're fully aware of who you are, you should be able to manage that in a way that is beneficial to all of the relationships and the interactions that's taking place. If you find that you're overly sharing, and you know when you are, as human beings, you know when you are. If you're overly sharing, you should create boundaries for yourself. And you should do something to remind yourself that you might be overly doing something. You should put boundaries. Other than that, you become blind spots. Yes, ma'am.
Can you give an example of that?
I knew you would ask that. Right?
She asked for an example.
Yeah, so let's say that you are an extroverted individual and you've had a great weekend and you're coming into the office and you were just letting them have it, right? Just overly sharing. But you happen to know that I am introverted. And every weekend that you come in, like on a Monday, you talk to me, but you can tell that sometimes I don't really want to talk that much. You've seen that. So if you're emotionally intelligent, you are fully aware of yourself, you're fully aware of me socially, and now you should have boundaries for yourself when you come in on how much that you talk to me or you tell me. So there's ways to be able to do that, right? So in each one of our relationships, whether it's social or professional, we should be establishing boundaries. It's important that we do that. It's important that we understand that our boss is our what? Boss. Our friend is our friend. Do we tell our friend everything about? Maybe not. What are you expecting them to do? Right? And sometimes that's really hard to do. And that's the reason you should set boundaries for yourself and become emotionally intelligent. Now remember, emotional intelligence is not turning off one day and you turn it on one day. It's a process to where you're learning of who you are and how you interact in certain situations. And as you learn that and put that information into the hopper, you should be able to show up better the next time. You should be able to show up better the next time. Okay? Yes, sir. Go for it.
So I think also to understand too is the power of influence. A lot of times we may go in a situation and not understand what we've been through before or some of the situations that we've had to deal with. That influences how we receive information or a situation. And sometimes we respond based off of what that influence has been, happening within our lives, not actually listening to what people are saying. So I think it's very, like you said, boundaries. Sometimes you got to put that out of your head. You got to listen to what they have to say because at some point they're trying to communicate a problem, an issue, and it may be something positive. But if we don't allow that influence to get away, we're already coming back with something that is negative. So be very careful about the things that we allow in our boats to influence us, throughout the day, because it does portray from us, and a lot of times it may not even be what you're actually trying to communicate.
If you do, I love that. Thank you so much for bringing that up in the conversation. So if you know yourself from an emotional intelligence perspective, you should know how much to allow in your boat. You should say to yourself, I can't handle that. I just can't. I know me. That's not something I can handle. I'm not going to pretend that I can. And you establish a boundary, and then you move to the next level. I think we had a hand back here.
As I was listening to you and you were speaking about like oversharing, it made me think about Christ. And I think since we're in Christian leadership and the fundamental of it is to be Christ-like in our leadership, Amen. I believe that's why Christ got along with God a lot and he prayed a lot to where God really was his friend. And I was that person that overshared, but as I started looking at, it started out with praying like, the traditional praying, but really understanding he is that one that sticks by closer than a friend, to where I started to become balanced because I started realizing people really can't help me with some things, not saying it in a disrespectful way, but God, that prayer is really that language that it's not just, hey, good morning, thank you, today's gonna be a good day, but God, I'm hurting. or these people have hit my last nerve, and I need you to get to me together. So, it's being vulnerable first with God and Christ, having that relationship. So then we can show up, like when we look at the scriptures, when Christ got alone in the morning, that's why he was able to go out and do so much, because he took his emotions. The scripture said he didn't trust in mankind for anything. He knew their nature. So if we kind of implement that as leaders, to take a moment or have that set time where I'm going to meet with God with you every day, and I'm going to dump my emotions with you. So then when I stand before the people to lead, I'm really leading from my space of purpose and my gifts and talents.
Look at you, leading from a place, do your thing, right? That is beautiful. Online.
I think we had a couple of comments that I could share, but I think there's one in particular. When someone says, I love you too much, can get concerning at times.
Aww.
I have a funny story. Years ago,
Yes.
I was a youth pastor, met a fellow youth pastor, talked to him on the phone the very first time. Sometimes you say weird stuff at the end of a conversation when you're hanging up. And I said, love you, man. It was awkward. Dr. Dokes, I need some counseling. How do I come back from that? But seriously, we did have one person in the chat ask. They felt like they overshared today, literally this morning.
Wow.
And then they asked, should I go back and apologize for it? What should I do?
Yeah, so
How should I handle it?
that's a very good question, and I would think that depending on what it was and how it happened, right? You got to be careful that it don't become more weird. So depending on what it was and how it happened, but for the most times, I would say if you can go back to it and revisit it and talk to the person, I think you'll be safe. I think you can do that for most people. Now, if there's something else sitting inside there, we might have to work around it a little bit. But I would say for the most part that we should be able to go back and revisit and say that, hey, this morning I made a statement. I just want to make a clarifying statement. I meant, or what I was talking about was. And the person, oh, okay, cool. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for clarifying that. Right? Does that help, or how do we feel about that?
Also by listening to them.
Listening to them.
Yeah.
I like that. We're going to talk a little bit in a second about listening. That's going to be active listening. Yeah. All right. Yes, right here.
Okay, this has happened to me today in a meeting. And I had my husband, we had the business, and I always go to the meeting to listen. Right now he's not here. I need to go and be at the meeting. And I was listening and trying to control myself. And my husband always say, when you hear something that you don't like it, pray inside of yourself and control yourself. And I was seeing this person lie to me in my face, and we require something, and his body language, I was there, I don't care. And he go out at the meeting, and I was
He was praying.
I
think, yeah.
God. And when I go out at the meeting, I say to my husband, I love you too much. God give it to you too much patience that I don't have it. How would you do that? He said, the same deal that I always tell you. Pray, trying to control yourself, leave everything in the hands of God, and He will take over absolutely everything and put it in the right way, how we need to do it.
I love that, and that's absolutely correct. Can we give God a round of applause for that? Because that's exactly what happens when we get in those situations, when we learn of ourselves. If you know that you have a blind spot or something is too deep for you, then you should go to the throne. If I can't handle it, right, I'm going to the throne because it's beyond me. I'm not there yet. Well, recognize that as self-awareness. Recognize that I have trouble doing that. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. Social skills, building trust, clarity, and directions, create better relationships, increase engagement, and promote productivity. Which one of these you like the most when it comes to building social skills? Trust. Clarity. What's the other one? He said all of them. Right? Check, 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 all the above. Yes.
Somebody said one thing real quick and online, and
Yes.
I think this goes with building trust. One of the things that I've learned with when people communicate with me, as long as they help me understand from a social standpoint what their intention is with me, I will give them a lot of grace.
Wow.
When they building the trust, to me is I understand your intention, even when you overshare, you undershare, whatever. As long as I know your intention, I think that social skill to me is the one that I respond to the most.
I love that. So as long as I have boundaries, we have clarity in our conversation. Even if you go too much, you color outside the line a little bit on the right and below, I get what you was really meaning. It's not a big deal. Does that make sense? It's not a big deal. But we got to make sure that we have a level of trust. When trust doesn't exist, a lot of other stuff doesn't exist. Done. A lot of things don't exist, right? Let's go to the next one. Let's see, I want to get to a conflict resolution. Take it to God. But I've been to him 3 times about them. Right? But we have conflict. Some conflict is not necessarily negative. Just because I disagree with where we're going to eat or how the food tastes or etc. doesn't mean that I don't like you. Right? We can still have healthy relationships and healthy conversations to where I don't have to agree with everything that you say. Right? So, but we got to get to a place that where we have disagreements about it, but we don't have to fall out. So the ability to navigate disagreements, work towards solutions. Even when we disagree, we should be doing it in a way that we're working towards something greater than individually. Meaningful engagement, remember, was outcomes that shared that gets us to a greater place together. It's not about you or me, it's about us. That's what we should be looking at, right? So we can have our conflicts. All right, let's go to the next one. Building relationships, the ability to build and maintain strong relationships. Teamwork, the ability to collaborate and work well with others. Let's go to the next one if you don't mind. All right, active listening. This is one I want to stop at for a second. Active listening. People always say, well, you need to listen to me. But what does that really mean? Not being seen, control. What does that really mean? Active listening. You hear it all the time, don't you? If you want to be a good communicator, you have to be an active listener. Right? You've ever heard that before? Yes? Say it again, Terry.
If I don't actively listen to you, I can't respond to you.
So
if I'm not paying attention.
Let's figure out what active listening is. All right, I'm going to need 3 volunteers. All right? 3 volunteers. 3 bold souls. Now, are y'all saved? No, just kidding, just kidding. We're going to have a little fun. Okay? You want to do it? Okay? Sharon, yes, come on up. Come on up. And I want to see if I can get 3 chairs. Can we get 3 chairs really quick? Thank you, sir. We're going to do it. We're going to do a little exercise here real quick. There we go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to put them sort of, your fans can see. Yeah, come on up. Let's give them a round of applause. Take a seat wherever you want to. Take a seat. Active listening. Yes, in fact, yeah, that'll be good. Thank you so much. Now, I want you to listen, and I want you to tell them what we're talking about at the very end of this, okay? And anyone can do it, so I want you to just listen to me. You know, Peter Piper picked a peck of peppers. The peppers that Peter Piper picked, I'm not sure where they are. Tell them what I said.
Peter Piper picked a pack of peppers. Peter Piper picked a pack of peppers, and I'm not sure where they are.
Okay. What did I say?
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, and I'm not sure of the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picks. He didn't say that, did he?
I mean, the Spark Notes version is somebody lost their peppers.
So I communicated something to them, right? Do you agree? And what they communicated back to you was something around sort of what I said. But they were listening. Were you listening? Yes. You were actively listening, but even in active listening, being at center stage, undistracted, they still were not able to do 100%, communicate 100% of what I said. How often is that happening with us? Yes. Let's do a mic back here really quick. Hold on, don't go anywhere. Oh, you got it?
Okay, sometimes it could be like the max competency of what they heard, right? So let's say like whatever you told them may have been like 12th grade level, but their max competency is 10th grade. They're probably telling you actively what they heard best to their knowledge competency.
I love it. She went healthcare deep on us. Because she knows she's in healthcare. So she was like, no, you don't understand the max competence of this thing, and drops, and then this thing happens. And just kidding. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, I want 3 more really quick, just 3 more really quick. Thank you so much, I appreciate you. 3 more. So now everybody's scared. I'm not going up there, you're not going to do that to me. All right, here we go. All right, let's see. Fuzzy Wuzzy, that rascal was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy, he just really had no hair. But was Fuzzy Wuzzy, was he really fuzzy? Did I do something wrong? I'm just talking. All right, who want to try it?
Fuzzy Wuzzy, this rascal was a bear.
You're talking to him, right?
Fuzzy Wuzzy, this rascal had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy, was he really a bear?
Okay.
Fuzzy Wuzzy, was he actually a bear? And Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair.
All right, Bria.
Fuzzy Wuzzy, that rascal was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy, he did not have any hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy, was he really a bear?
Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much. So what we were demonstrating here is that, absolutely on the active listening, but even when we're in the midst of talking and having conversations, there are chances that people may not regurgitate exactly the way we would like them to. PJ, you had to. Yes, yeah, okay, there you go. Because I'm double mic'd, I apologize.
You were coming in hot.
Yeah, I'm coming in hot, right? Turning it up. So does that make sense to you guys so far? Kind of what was happening? So we have to make sure that when we were communicating, that there's understanding. So here's the thing that you can take home with you tonight. If you're communicating to someone, you can check in with them. Fuzzy Wuzzy that rascal was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Did you really understand what I was saying? Right? And so what I'm doing right now is checking in with the person. The person says, yes, you're talking about Fuzzy Wuzzy. I don't know why, but you're talking about a bear that had no hair, right? And then we move on to the next thing. So active listening, what you want to do is you want to break the conversation down into pieces so that you can maintain the integrity of the conversation. Opposed to let it go on for 2 hours and then come back, then the person say, you are not listening to me. That happens, right? I was being a little facetious and I said 2 hours. But the point is, you want to make sure that you're having an active communication conversation. All right, ask thoughtful questions. Go beyond superficial conversation topics. Ask questions that encourage deeper sharing of self-disclosure. Ask questions, right? Check in with the person. This is a social awareness. We have to be aware. You have to read the room. It's okay to ask questions to be able to do that. Yes?
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Somebody asked, they like to ask this question, did you mean this?
Yes.
When somebody's talking to you, did you mean this when you just said that to me?
I love that. What did you mean when you said on time? What did you mean when you said... What did you mean when you said that, as PJ said, that's weird at the end? What did you mean when you said you love me? What did you mean when you said that? Because I may need to hear that. I may need to hear that. Right? PJ and I would tell each other, man, I love you. So sometimes we just need to check in with one another. What did you mean when you said that? This morning when you left, Mike right here, this morning when you left, you said X. And I just thought about that. What did you really mean by that? That's really good. I like that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I wanted to share something. About once or twice a month, I go visit my son and his grandkids. He has a 2.5-year-old and a 9-year-old. So while I'm playing with them, I'm actually listening to the older one. And I'm watching her, and I'm watching her body language. And so I won't say anything to her, but I'll pull my son aside. And I have enough trust in my son that I can look him in the face and say, hey, this is what I noticed, and this is what you need to do, and this is what you need to do. And he'll look at me like this, and then he'll say, you know what, I'm already doing that. He said, I thank you for giving us an extra pair of eyes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Appreciate that. Round of applause. Yep. You know how you do it. So we're going to end the conversation. Go to my next slide, please. Adaptability. This is the last one. Adaptability. You have to be able to be adaptable, flexible. Right? Sometimes we're so rigid. You want me to pay for the dinner every time. Right? Be adaptable and pay for it sometimes. Pay for the Starbucks, right? So, but seriously, be adaptable. When you're reading the room, it doesn't always have to be about you. In the emotional intelligence space, it doesn't always have to be about you. And why are you right all the time and I'm wrong 100% of the time? Right? We have to learn to be adaptable and flexible in our relationships, professional and personal, both of them. Learn to be adaptable and intentionally, here's what I'm going to ask you to think about. Be intentionally flexible. Go into the conversation saying, you know, I said yesterday that we were going to go to whatever restaurant, but I want to know where you want to go. No, it was your time to say it. I know. I want to change that and say, where do you want to go? So now I'm being intentionally flexible. I'm building trust. I'm opening up our ability to have a deeper conversation and to be more meaningful in our relationship so where it's a more shared outcome or value into the relationship opposed to being about me. Even though it was my turn to decide, I decided to be intentionally flexible. Trust me, the person will love you for that, right? All right, we're down to the end. Are there any questions or thoughts from our online audience or in the house on social skills? Social skills. You got this down to a science?
I'll share something from online.
Yes.
We had a couple people make comments about asking good questions in the conversation. And one person said, you know, what you're saying is important to me. Let me make sure I understood you.
Yes.
And I think that's a really good point. Expressing the value of I genuinely want to understand because this is important to me because it's you. So help me make sure that I heard you correctly.
Yes, I love that. I love that. When you have those type of conversations, the people that you're working with or that you're communicating to will really begin to trust you even deeper. Because now they say, wow, they listened to me. So let me clarify that. Let me make sure I heard you correctly. And you want to do that on Tuesday at 5, right? And sometimes you want to give them some information back that they've stated. Give it back to them to make sure that you let them know that you really heard what they're saying because that may be important to them. that we're going to meet at 5 or we're going to meet at lunch on Tuesday, and we're going to be talking about the new position. Is that what I heard? Absolutely. That's what we're talking about. All right, I'll be there at 5 on Tuesday and ready to talk about the new position. You see what I just did? I confirmed, I repeated it to make sure that we're on the same page. So if anything happens, it's okay with a little flexibility, adaptability, but I heard you correctly. Right? Does that make sense? All right, let's give everybody a round of applause, especially also our online audience. I'm going to ask PJ to come on up and close us out for tonight.
Dr. Dokes, if you'll step here and pray us out in just a moment. But I want to share something personal. Last September, I had a buddy of mine. You can speak to this if you want. I had a buddy of mine tell me something that I will never forget. He said, about a year ago, I decided that I was going to stop correcting people unless I was paid to do it. And he said, I've never been happier. And I thought, what a genius point of view. So since September, I've been trying to practice that the last 5-6 months. And I'll be honest, it's made me happier. But I guess my thought is this, we live in a world that is so opinion-driven. Everything, social media, it's like somebody makes a post and 6,000 people will post below it. Yeah. And everybody wants to give their, I think you're wrong here. And it's really easy for me to do that, I'll be honest. But I think for me, it's one of the ones that I want to practice in my social skills, to say, I don't have to correct everybody all the time on everything, because it's usually their opinion versus mine. And I think I have learned in my own, if I'm being honest and vulnerable, I have learned in my own life, correcting people has ruined more relationships than anything else. Unnecessary correcting. Now, if my children are hurting themselves, I'll correct that. Or if I see a friend who doesn't see danger up ahead. But other than that, one of the things that I want to practice this year is just to say, you know what, you might be right. And just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Even on the back, even if they're wrong, even if we know or I know they're wrong, I'll go, yeah, you might be right.
So
does that resonate with anybody else?
Yeah.
That's one of my worst social skills, is wanting to, let me tell you what the truth is, and I've never been happier than I have been the last 5 or 6 months. Like he said, just letting it go and going, you might be right.
And then I will say to you that, that's hand, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add to that. Pastor Joe has shared a story, both on the radio as well as in service before, about he was at some type of social event, and some gentleman approached him and was sharing his thoughts and opinions with him about a certain topic. And Pastor Joe was like, okay, pretty much like you, okay, you might be right. And so when the gentleman left, Pastor Victoria said, Joel, I know you didn't agree with him, And he was like, no, I didn't, but I'm not assigned to everybody. Everybody is not my responsibility.
Very good.
Okay? So I take that to heart, and that's pretty much what your friend has done.
And I was going to say,
yes, I feel much better too.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
I was going to say that really think about what's your intent.
That's good.
What's your intent of wanting to correct other people?
Yeah.
What's the very reason that you're doing it? Because some people, if you correct them, like you said, you could ruin relationships behind that, because the way that they understand the reason you're doing that to them may be you're correcting me because you're putting me down, right? But you may be doing it from a very good place. So we just have to think about what's the intent, and is it worth it? In this particular situation, as you stated, if it's the children are hurting, get on it, right? Correct that. But maybe they're not your assignment, right? Maybe we don't have to do that, try to correct in every situation. We may not want to correct our boss every time. That could create problems. You may not want to correct your spouse every time. That could create problems. And then how you correct should be use emotional intelligence on how you actually do it. Say, hey, you said to me X, Y, Z, and I was thinking that was a slightly blue color, but when you say it's off blue, help me. I've never heard that before. Help me out. And so having that type of conversation is more meaningful than just correcting, because when you correct people, sometimes they feel less than.
Yeah.
They can feel less than. And so even though you're coming from a good place, they can still feel less than. So hopefully that added a little value to that conversation.
I realized mine was from a place of needing to be right. Which is an insecurity. And so for me, I had to bring it to the Lord and say, God, how do you want me to handle somewhere in my life needing to be right? But I think for me, I love learning. And it was a barricade to learning because I was shutting out other perspectives, other opinions, information, learning, wisdom. Anyway, just wanted to share that personally.
That's beautiful.
That social skills, that's an area for me that... So here's the test for the rest of the year. If y'all are in here and I correct you and I don't need to, tell me. I give you license to be like, PJ, you said... As long as we're sharing. Y'all good with that?
Right. As long as we're being vulnerable, we might as well just do it.
I love what one person said, and this is how the offense is killed when somebody else corrects me or critiques me. I had a pastor friend of mine in Dallas tell me this. On their staff, they practice this saying. If somebody comes up and corrects them, they go, "Thank you for correcting me and helping me be better." It kills it. It kills it. But it's also going the other way. It's also the mindset of like, maybe I don't need to correct everybody all the time. So anyways, Dr. Douglas, would you finish praying for us as we close tonight?
Absolutely. Let's stand, if we don't mind. And I like to do from time to time, I do what I call a conversation with God, right? Some people, obviously it's prayer, but I call it a conversation with him where I just tell him a couple of things. I just talk to him and tell him what's on my heart, right? And so on tonight, I just want to talk to him for us. So think about what's on your heart and the things that you're trying to accomplish and the places that you're looking to go. And let's just tell him about it, right? We don't have to get real deep. We can tell him what we are going through and what we're feeling. And then leave it in his hand, and then we walk away from him and watch God do what God does. And he always do a wonderful job. So let's just do that as we talk to him. Lord, we thank you once again for this opportunity on tonight to allow us to come out safely and be here for those who wanted to be here who are not. But we are here, God, and we are going through a conversation, and we are talking, and we are learning, and we have these sometimes blocks in our lives. We have all sorts of situations, but we're here. We want to learn. We want to do better and be better, God. And we want you to help us increase our emotional intelligence so that we can show up at a higher level when we're serving others, God, in our lives. So if there's any blocks, anything that's stopping us from becoming better, we ask that you would move it right now in the name of Jesus. God, we're no longer pretending. We do have challenges in our spaces, but we know that you're a challenge mover. And we ask that on tonight, God, that you would help us to become a better version of who you want us to be as you order our steps in your word. Help us to remind us of those blind spots and how we're treating others and even how we're treating ourselves, and help us to do better and not be so judgmental in our comments. And if we give correction, God, let us give it from a place of humility and that we want to be better. In the name of Jesus, we pray. We thank you for this. Amen.
Amen. All right, everybody online, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation tonight from wherever you were watching in the world. We love you. Thank you for being our extended family. We'll see you right back here, 7 o'clock Central Time, Houston time, next week. And for all of us, we'll see you at 7 o'clock for week 5, the final week of Leadership 301. See you then.